Hello everyone, what's up? And welcome back to another video. Are you looking for those old school, nostalgic gaming vibes? Well, don't worry, Retro's Pocket has got you. In today's video, we're diving into another awesome list of classic games that may have been forgotten by time, but still live on in the hearts of true gamers. So, let's get started. But before we begin, drop a comment below and tell me which retro game brings back the best memories for you. Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. You know that type of thrill when you sneak past guards, lights flickering, and every footstep feels like it might blow your cover? That's what Splinter Cell feels like. Back in 2005, this game was a stealth masterpiece that made you think before every move. Playing as Sam Fisher wasn't just about shooting, it was about being smart, silent, and deadly. The shadows were your best friend, and one wrong sound could ruin everything. The night vision goggles, the knife kills, the realistic AI. It all felt way ahead of its time. Even today, the game's atmosphere, sound design, and tactical depth still hit differently. If you grew up with stealth games, you already know Chaos Theory was an experience that taught us patience, precision, and how cool silence can be.
This is how it all began. Which, of course, leads to nonsense like this.
Ultimate Spider-Man. Let's swing back to 2005 for a gem that most of us forgot about. Ultimate Spider-Man. This game had that perfect comic book style, almost like you were inside the panels of a Marvel issue. It gave us not just Spider-Man's perspective, but also let us play as Venom, yeah, the Venom, smashing cars, eating people, and going full chaos mode. The open-world web swinging through Manhattan felt smooth, fast, and so satisfying for its time. It nailed that classic Spidey humor and energy that made us feel like the friendly neighborhood hero again. If you remember zipping between rooftops or chasing the Human Torch in races, you know how much fun this one was. Ultimate Spider-Man still feels like a love letter to Marvel fans, simple, stylish, and full of heart. Need for Speed Most Wanted. So, a few games really scream 2000s gaming nostalgia, like Need for Speed. This one ruled every cafe and console corner back in the day. The thrill wasn't just the speed, it was the chaos of flashing lights behind you as you tore through Rockport streets in your souped-up BMW M3 GTR. The combination of underground racing culture and high-stakes police chases made it electric. The blacklist system kept you grinding to defeat rival racers, while those epic pursuits had your palms sweating with every narrow escape. As your heat level climbed, roadblocks, spike strips, and helicopters turned races into mini-action movies. Add to that a killer soundtrack and cinematic story sequences, and you've got a perfect time capsule of what racing games used to feel like: stylish, fast, and wonderfully reckless.
1939. The armies of Nazi Germany begin their conquest of Europe. First of all is Poland, then Denmark, Norway, France.
Call of Duty 2. Honestly, everyone, I really loved to play COD. It was one of the best games. Back when first-person shooters were just finding their stride, Call of Duty 2 came along and raised the bar. Released in 2005, it dropped players into World War II battlefields that actually felt alive, with smoke-filled skies, shattering explosions, and soldiers yelling across trenches. The AI was surprisingly smart for its time, flanking you and forcing you to adapt, like you were in a real war zone. The game's campaign hopped between the British, American, and Russian forces, giving every perspective its emotional punch. Honestly, that feeling of storming Normandy or surviving snowy Stalingrad still hits today. It's raw, it's gritty, and it nailed that cinematic war movie feel long before most games even tried. A perfect example of how simple gameplay with strong atmosphere becomes timeless.
In other words, Psychonauts! The rest of you will die!
Psychonauts. There's something beautifully odd about Psychonauts. If you ever played Psychonauts, you know it wasn't your typical platformer. It was pure imagination turned into a game. It's the kind of game that makes you smile just by remembering it. When it launched in 2005, it was quirky, smart, and completely unlike anything else. You played as Raz, a kid training to be a psychic secret agent, exploring the minds of bizarre characters, each level a metaphor for their fears and thoughts. Double Fine nailed that weird humor and emotional depth combo that most games wouldn't dare touch back then. The art style looked like a twisted Saturday morning cartoon, yet the storytelling hit deep when it needed to. Even though it didn't sell much at release, it slowly grew into a cult classic because people realized how genius it really was. 2 decades later, its creativity still feels fresh. A little reminder that games don't always need realism to leave a real impact.
Their father flowed through their veins. The two battled each other fiercely like arch-enemies. It seemed as if they derived...
Devil May Cry 3: Dante's Awakening. Now coming to another one, this was peak stylish gaming. Devil May Cry 3 was a masterclass in attitude and precision. Released back in 2005, it showed us the younger, cockier Dante before he became the demon-slaying legend we know. The combat was wild, something all about rhythm, reflexes, and keeping that combo meter climbing to SS stylish. Players could mix swords and dual pistols mid-battle, flipping and taunting enemies while dodging death by inches. The 4 main fighting styles were Trickster, Swordmaster, Gunslinger, and Royal Guard, gave insane freedom to shape how Dante fought. And let's not forget that epic brother rivalry with Virgil, one of gaming's finest showdowns. The story, the energy, and that rock-heavy soundtrack made it unforgettable. 2 decades later, Devil May Cry 3 still feels like an action symphony that never skipped a beat. F.E.A.R. There's something haunting about how F.E.A.R nailed intensity. This shooter combined slow-motion gunfights with psychological horror that actually got under your skin. You played as a Special Forces operative, gifted with superhuman reflexes, diving between bullets in creepy corridors while flickering lights teased jump scares. The game's AI, for its time, was next level. Enemies flanked, retreated, and communicated so realistically that it almost felt unfair. And then there was Alma, the ghostly little girl who turned every firefight into a nightmare. Graphically and mechanically, F.E.A.R had that gritty realism mixed with bursts of supernatural chaos. Every shadow, every whisper meant something bad was coming. Even now, no game has recreated that blend of tactical shooting and genuine fear quite the same way.
Road Rage, the crowd favorite, is back and even better than before. We'll be pitting competitors up against rage rivals with some surprises thrown in for good measure.
Burnout Revenge. Alright guys, this one's for the chaos lovers. Burnout Revenge wasn't just about racing only. It was all-out vehicular war. It took the thrill of speed and fused it with pure mayhem. The idea was simple: crash, boost, and dominate. Every race turned into a demolition derby, with cars slamming into traffic or opponents mid-air for that glorious takedown slow-mo moment. Criterion Games basically said, what if crashing was the point? And gamers everywhere said, yes, please. The game rewarded aggression like nothing else. The more stylish your destruction, the higher your score. With pinpoint handling, explosive tracks, and that addictive crash mode, Burnout Revenge made chaos look cinematic. Even today, when gamers want that sense of reckless fun, this classic still revs up memories of flying metal and victory flames.
Perhaps if we were to do it without the boy, my lord? No. Harry Potter is as good as mine. It is decided.
Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I think almost everyone grew up being a fan of Harry Potter and Hogwarts. Stepping into Hogwarts during the Goblet of Fire era was pure excitement. Unlike the earlier Harry Potter titles, this one leaned more into cooperative gameplay, letting you play as Harry, Ron, or Hermione, even teaming up with friends. The Triwizard Tournament trials were the highlight, from dodging dragons to escaping the maze that felt straight out of the movie. What stood out most was how cinematic everything felt. Spells lighting up huge set pieces, magical creatures swooping in, and that eerie dark mark in the sky. Sure, it was more linear than the open wander around Hogwarts fans loved, but the visuals and atmosphere made up for it. For many fans, this was the first time the Harry Potter universe felt like an action-adventure rather than a school simulator, short, punchy, and filled with nostalgic charm.
New York City, Manhattan Island, 25 square miles of crowds, concrete.
True Crime, New York City. Now, here's the one that people really forget. True Crime, New York City. This was Rockstar-level ambition before Rockstar even made GTA 4. It lets you play as Marcus Reed, a street cop turned detective, cleaning up New York's gritty underworld. What made it cool was how alive the city felt. You could patrol streets, stop crimes, or completely go rogue. The freedom was unreal for its time. It had martial arts combat, gunfights, car chases, and even moral choices that shaped how the city reacted to you. The music, voice acting, and dark tone made it feel like a crime movie you actually controlled. It's one of those titles that never got the love it deserved, but still stands tall as a true cult classic of the mid-2000s. The Warriors. Okay guys, if you ever wanted to live through that gritty, neon-lit chaos of 1970s New York gangs, The Warriors did it better than anyone. Rockstar took the cult movie and spun it into a full-on brawler masterpiece in 2005. You weren't just beating up punks, you were surviving the streets. Every level had you brawling, tagging graffiti, or looting stores, all while trying to make it back to Coney Island. The combat had weight, combos felt brutal, and the voice acting captured that raw street tone perfectly. What made it cooler is that the game is actually built on the movie's backstory, showing how each gang beef began. It mixed cinematic storytelling with dirty, gritty fun, and even today, few beat-em-ups nail that gang culture vibe like this one did. Pure Rockstar magic from the golden age of consoles.
But his mistake, born of innocence, fueled by pride, was the greatest and most terrible of them all.
Prince of Persia, The Two Thrones. Returning to Babylon never looked this intense. Prince of Persia, The Two Thrones wrapped up Ubisoft's Sands of Time trilogy with a perfect mix of parkour, puzzle solving, and sword-swinging action. You had the prince literally fighting his inner darkness, the Dark Prince, turning gameplay into both a physical and mental clash. The new speed kill feature made stealth exciting, letting you ambush enemies with stylish, timed precision. Level design blended rooftops, narrow passages, and epic boss fights beautifully, and those high-speed chariot chases were edge-of-your-seat moments. What made it memorable was its emotional story. A battle not just against enemies, but against himself. The visuals, voice work, and Middle Eastern-inspired music all pulled you into that world effortlessly. Even 2 decades later, its mix of fluid agility and depth makes it one of the most refined action games of its era.
Sweet outfit, pretty princess. It's perfect. You go get something to accessorize it with. I got a date with City Looks. We need the new Treasures Compact. Press the A button so I can carry on the party prep.
Bratz rock Angelz. Here is another forgotten one, but fans who played it remember every glittery second. Stylish, adventure-filled game where you control the iconic Bratz girls chasing fashion dreams and magazine fame. It was about vibe. You could design outfits, decorate studios, take photos, and live that early 2000s pop star fantasy. Between makeovers, mini-games, and performing as a rock band, the game was pure teen escapism. It perfectly mirrored that Y2K glam culture with charm, catchy tunes, colourful visuals, and classic sass. It may not have been a technical powerhouse, but for a whole generation of kids, it captured the energy of that Bratz era. Looking back, Rock Angelz was comfort gaming done right, full of colour and confidence. Far Cry. Before Far Cry became the massive open-world series we know today, it started small and wild. The original Far Cry threw players into a tropical island full of mercenaries, jungles, and mysterious experiments. You played as Jack Carver, a dude who just wanted a quiet boat trip, but ended up in full-blown chaos. What made this game stand out was its open-ended gameplay. You could sneak through the bushes or go guns blazing, and the AI was smart enough to adapt. The graphics were jaw-dropping for 2004. Those lush islands felt alive. It was tough, unpredictable, and completely refreshing for its time. Far Cry didn't hold your hand. It dropped you in and said, survive. And that's why it still deserves respect today. It's where the legend began.
Darling! Son! Our troubles are finally over. We hit a vein of gold as wide as a locomotive that runs clean through Bear Mountain.
Red Dead Revolver. Long before Red Dead Redemption became a phenomenon, there was Red Dead Revolver, the wild, gritty start of Rockstar's cowboy legacy. This classic brought that true Western flavor to life, mixing fast-paced gunfights with a story full of revenge and dusty drama. You played as Red Harlow, a tough bounty hunter hunting down outlaws across dangerous frontiers. Every level felt like a scene straight out of an old Western movie, complete with saloon brawls, duels at high noon, and gun smoke hanging in the air. The quick-draw dueling system was the heart of it all. Slow motion, tense, and incredibly satisfying when you nailed that perfect shot. The characters were rough, the towns felt alive, and the soundtrack gave it that classic cowboy feel. It might not have been open world like Red Dead Redemption, but it had all the soul. Red Dead Revolver was where Rockstar's Wild West journey truly began.
And let's not even talk about the power supply. You know how expensive this gear is, son?
Tell that to the Covenant.
Halo 2. You guys know that moment when a sequel completely changes the game. That was Halo 2. Back in the 2000s, Bungie dropped this masterpiece, and suddenly multiplayer shooters were never the same again. Dual-wielding guns, hijacking vehicles mid-battle, it was pure adrenaline from start to finish. The campaign flipped expectations, letting players experience both Master Chief and the Arbiter's side of the war, adding serious emotional depth to all the chaos. The soundtrack? Legendary. The gunplay? Smoother and faster, with that satisfying recharging shield system that defined the series. Even the maps and online battles became the blueprint for modern console multiplayer. Sure, the ending left everyone stunned and yelling, but the journey there was unmatched. 2 decades later, Halo 2 still feels like the soul of Xbox gaming. Bold, cinematic, and just too fun to put down. Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. To be honest, everyone, some games demand so much of patience, and Metroid Prime 2 Echoes was one of them. You stepped into Samus Aran's boots again, this time venturing across the light and dark worlds of Aether, a planet split between beauty and despair. Switching between realities wasn't just a gimmick, it was survival. The puzzles were tougher, enemies crueler, and exploration deeper than before. The new dark beam and light beam mechanics added strategic flavor, forcing players to think instead of just shooting. The eerie sound design and isolation made every step tense. Echoes wasn't made for everyone. It was made for those who loved uncovering every secret the hard way. Even now, fans call it the boldest and most haunting entry in the Prime trilogy. Tough, moody, and unforgettable. Doom 3. If you ever wanted to feel your heart pounding while blasting demons, Doom 3 was your nightmare playground. This reboot took the classic Doom formula and drenched it in pure horror. The dark corridors of Mars, the eerie silence before a monster attack, and the flickering flashlight that made you choose between light and firepower, everything screamed tension. The graphics were jaw-dropping for its time, with monsters that looked straight out of your worst dreams. It was slower and scarier than the originals, focusing on fear and atmosphere instead of non-stop chaos. But when the chaos hit, it hit hard. Doom 3 showed that the franchise could evolve and still stay brutal at its core. Even today, it's a masterclass in horror action done right. Def Jam Fight for NY. So, Def Jam Fight for NY dropped in and proved that fighting games could have swagger. It was about throwing rappers through subway cars while your crew cheered. You had icons like Snoop Dogg, Method Man, and Ludacris mixing fists with style, each backed by their own brutal fighting techniques. The customization was really deep. Players could mix martial arts, street fighting, and wrestling to create their own underground legend. The gritty sound design and hip-hop soundtrack made every brawl feel cinematic. What really worked was the type of personality. Every fighter oozed attitude. It was chaotic, stylish, and gritty. The kind of game that made you shout after every knockout. Even today, fans still beg for a remaster, because honestly, no fighting games ever matched that mix of culture and raw fun.
Keller J, Sergeant First Class, serial number 717-8412. Iran, Guatemala, Colombia, Croatia. Very impressive.
Black. There's Loud, and then there's Black Loud. Released by Criterion, Black was an all-guns-blazing shooter that didn't care about stealth or subtlety, it cared about explosions. Everything in that game blew up beautifully. Cars, walls, even doors looked cinematic when they crumbled. It was the first-person shooter that treated firefights like Hollywood blockbuster scenes. The gun effects? Unreal. Each weapon felt heavy, Each bullet echoed power. And the story was a dark, covert narrative told through gritty interrogation scenes, stylish and surprisingly moody. What made Black stand out was its focus on making shooting itself the star. You weren't sneaking or hiding, you were orchestrating chaos in slow motion. It didn't need multiplayer, it didn't need gimmicks, just the pure joy of destruction. Nearly 20 years later, it's still remembered as the loudest, flashiest shooter of its generation, and a cult classic that defined the phrase "guns done right."
James?
What? Who are you? Mom, I thought you told me never to talk to strangers.
Like I said before, Jimmy, please be nice to your new stepfather.
Bully. Let's talk about a rockstar classic. People won't let go. Bully is that one schoolyard adventure everyone wanted, but thankfully never got in real life. You entered Bulworth Academy as Jimmy Hopkins, the king of student mischief, and suddenly class, cliques, and chaos became your main subjects. It was all about pranks, bike races, and climbing up the school's weird social ladder, sometimes shoving prefects into lockers or acing your classes for cool upgrades. The best part? There was real heart behind the jokes, with missions that dug into school politics and growing up. Side hustles like delivering newspapers or wrestling jocks never got old, and the pulpy soundtrack is still iconic. Rockstar's open-world design made school feel alive, from Halloween pranks to winter snowball fights. For a game all about being the outsider, Bully made you feel right at home. Hitman Blood Money. Sometimes being the bad guy never felt so classy. Hitman Blood Money dropped you into the polished shoes of Agent 47, stealth, style, and choice at every corner. It was about planning every step, slipping through crowds and making accidents look natural. Each level was an elaborate sandbox, brimming with possibilities: poison the drink, stage an accident, swap costumes, or just disappear in the chaos. New tools were everywhere. You could climb, use enemies as shields, or stash bodies away. Money from clean hits got you sweet weapon upgrades, but blow your cover, and the world watched closely thanks to the new notoriety system. No two missions ever felt the same, and the tension of pulling off a silent assassination, unmatched. Blood Money is the purest form of professionally unpredictable, and pure gold for stealth fans. Ōkami. Some games just feel like art in your hands, and Ōkami is pure proof. Released in 2006, it turned Japanese folklore into a living painting. You played as Amaterasu, the sun goddess, moving through watercolor-style landscapes with a magic paintbrush as your weapon and tool. Drawing on the screen lets you slash enemies, summon wind, or even bring dead trees to bloom. The world was brimming with quirky yokai, echoing traditional myths while piling on heart and humor. Even today, it's hard to find an adventure this beautiful. The visuals literally looked like a Japanese woodblock print come to life. The story was pure mythic comfort, and every puzzle or boss fight felt magical. Ōkami didn't just win hearts on the PlayStation 2, it's still cherished for being a rare masterpiece where every brushstroke matters. A real legend in every sense.
They sure didn't mention anything about it on TV.
Yeah, well, I'm freelance, pal. I don't make my living waiting for the TV to tell me what to cover.
Dead Rising. Imagine getting locked in a mall with tens of thousands of zombies. That was Dead Rising in 2006. Zombie-type games are always thrilling, You played as Frank West, a photojournalist with a bad haircut, but all the best survival instincts. Weapons? Anything you could grab. Guitars, benches, lawn mowers. Time was always counting down, making every rescue, boss fight, and photo decision intense. The real twist was you had to juggle finding survivors, covering stories, and fighting psycho bosses, all with that classic Capcom humor and over-the-top action. The mall itself was a character, packed with secrets, stores, and nutty set pieces. Dead Rising wasn't about horror, it was about wild sandbox freedom. Even now, there's nothing quite like mowing down a zombie horde while juggling photo shoots and moral dilemmas. A beautiful mess and a true classic, no question. The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. Oblivion was the definition of epic. This game lets you wander the kingdom of Cyrodiil any way you want, battling Daedric cults, joining the Thieves Guild, or just getting lost in those rolling, sunlit hills. The story was massive, but it was the freedom that hooked everyone. One moment you're chasing demons through an Oblivion gate, next you're climbing the social ranks in the Mages Guild. The graphics, jaw-dropping at launch, made every forest and ruined fortress ridiculously immersive. Side quests overflowed with unique twists, from haunted paintings to arena brawls. NPCs had their daily lives, making the world feel alive, even when you just stood and watched. Oblivion didn't just set the gold standard for open-world RPGs, it made being the hero of your own adventure a reality. Games are still chasing what Oblivion pulled off. Thanks for sticking around and checking out these awesome old-school games with me. If any of these titles brought back memories or you discovered something new, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more cool gaming content coming your way. Until next time, keep gaming, stay awesome, and I'll catch you in the next video.
You are gonna wear something nice. Folks need heroes, Chief. Give them hope. So smile, would ya? Well, we still got something to smile about.